Go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being with us tonight. Diane, Cindy, and Larry are here this evening. We're going to go over a couple items before we start the season. We hope all of you are doing well. Have had a wonderful start to the new year. We're excited. We do have a change in our office. We'll go off and start there. Danielle Hogel will be moving from our communications department to our sports athletic department side of the building. So we're excited to have Danielle on board with us. She is currently neck deep in state spirit. So we're kind of slowly introducing her to everything she's going to be taking on with Kelly leaving us. So she'll be with us here tonight and learning like the rest of us. As we've done in the past, the Q&A is open for all of you to take advantage of if you have questions throughout the webinar. We'll get to those as we go through or at the end, but we will make sure all of the questions are answered before we leave. It will be recorded, so if you miss something or want to share this with your association, for the rest of the members, please give me about a day or so and I'll have everything posted on YouTube with the link directly on the sports page for our central hub under softball. So there will be access to this again afterwards. But again, thank you for being here with us tonight, and I will turn it over to Larry.
Thank you, Jeremy. And again, it looks like we've got quite a few participants. That's terrific. I'm glad to see all you folks interested in what we want to do statewide. I have the great honor to be your lead evaluator and rules interpreter for Florida high school softball, but I have two tremendous assistants that are much better umpires than I ever hoped to be, and that's Cindy Bruno and Diane Kendall. So Cindy's on with us tonight. Diane, being a middle school with gym teacher, is working the table at a middle school basketball game. So hopefully maybe at halftime she'll pop in and say hi. Cindy, you want to say anything to welcome everybody? You're muted though. And you're still muted.
All right, just wanted to welcome everyone and glad you can take some time out of your evening. Hopefully we'll talk about something that will be of interest and be a learning experience for you. So thanks for jumping on.
And I'll add my welcome to Danielle. Really look forward to working with you. Those of you who had the pleasure of knowing Kelly Doucette during the years that cheer coach was our softball administrator. She learned a lot of softball in those years, and she was great to work with. She is now returned to Boston, her home, and she is in charge of all travel for Harvard athletics. If you can deal with softball coaches, I guess you can deal with people demanding better hotel rooms and plane flights from Harvard. So again, it's Danielle Hogel, and hopefully you'll get to meet her at different things. If you come to our trainings we have in December, I'm sure she'll be there. If you make it to Claremont in the end of May, you will meet her there for sure. Not a whole lot of changes in our rules this year, but one major one that affects us as umpires, and Cindy's going to talk about that. So I'll mute myself for a little bit.
All right. Danielle, did you want to say hi to the group?
Of course I can. I didn't want to interrupt your rules, but
Nope,
I'm
go ahead.
Danielle Hogel. Like Jeremy and Larry both mentioned, I have been in the communications department here at the FHSA for about 8 years, and I've been kind of Kelly's assigned partner on most of her sports for about 7 of those 8 years. So she was a cheer coach who learned softball. I have more of a softball background I'm trying to learn cheer. So I kind of have the opposite problem. I am really excited for softball. Cheer I took that way I could have softball. So take the good with the bad, I guess they say. But I am very excited to meet all of you. I'm going to aim to try to get out to some tournaments before even the state series starts and all that. I want to get involved, meet you all, and hit the ground running. So let's learn some rules.
Welcome.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to talk about the jewelry rule and electronic equipment. Okay, this was the PDF that was sent out by the National Federation. So we're just going to go over it as a point of emphasis. Remember, we do not have to check jewelry or have anything to do with jewelry unless we deem it's unsafe. So if you go to your rule book and you go to page 87, that explains that no, jewelry is not prohibited anymore. And it also explains about electronic equipment. One thing I'll say before I get into electronic equipment is on page 33, I want you all to take note of rule 3.2.13. All right, on that rule specifically says any equipment judged by the umpire to be potentially dangerous is illegal. So no, we don't police jewelry anymore, but we still have to have view on players. And if you deem they have something on that's potentially dangerous, then we can ask them to take it off. And what we mean by that is hoops that are about, yay big on their ears, or hoops on their nose that hang down past their lips, things like that. But we really don't go looking for it. But if it's there, we need to grab it. As far as the electronic equipment, this is a good picture of it. They can wear watches out there. They can wear Fitbits, smart watches, whatever. But if you see a coach communicating and the player automatically going to their wristband, you could question them as to whether or not they're communicating back and forth. If the player is just wearing a smartwatch, they're allowed. It's not a big deal. But if they continuously are going to it, then I would tend to question why they have to go to it so often. Coaches should not have anything in the coach's box that's used for communication. So we need to keep everything inside the dugout. Is there any questions on that portion? All right, I think the rule is pretty straightforward.
Hey, Cindy, hang on real quick.
Yep,
I
go
saw
ahead.
a couple hands raised. So again, if you have questions, please just type them in the Q&A and we will get to those. The question did come up now. What about using iPads for stats in the box? In the coach's box, that is.
Well, it specifically says in here, the use of electronic devices by team personnel to transmit and record information pertaining to their players or team's performance is only permitted in the dugout. So if you're saying they're taking stats and doing things like that, then that has to be done in the dugout. If they're keeping score, they can keep score out in the coach's box.
And then do you have a page of that rule again, Cindy, the 3.2.13?
3.2.13 is on page 33. And the points of emphasis regarding the jewelry rules on page 87.
Here's a good one. If the communication persists and the coaches keep denying, what action should be taken?
Now you go to rule 3.6. And let me find it.
Page 32.
3.6, page actually, page 39, 3.6.11. Electronic devices may be used within the dugout during the course of the game. And then penalty, if it's not, the umpire, if minor, warns, if major, can eject. Or you can warn, and if it persists, eject.
Which would be
Restrict the player to the bench,
restricted to the
eject the
bench.
coach.
Perfect. And then the last one, and we'll move off of electronic devices until the end if there's any others. How do we control drones? And that's, I can handle that one. Drones during the regular season is a county or district ability or non-ability, I guess you can say. So if the district and county have a policy on it for regular season, that would be handled at the local level. So if they're having it, just check with them. Obviously, you're not going to know what the county has, but if they say that the county allows it, then you go with it. From our end, though, there's not a drone policy for the regular season. That's handled at the local level.
Great.
Now, I would make mention though, if that drone is flying low enough that a ball could hit it, then you have issues there, and I would discuss that with the game administrator.
Great. All right, well then we'll move on. And again, we will answer questions at the end. We'll stay here as long as you guys want to hang on. Want to review once again the Florida pitching rule. In 2022, we saw great improvement. Not nearly as many illegal pitches for stepping back or stepping back as part of the motion as we had in the past. So big improvement, great job by the umpires, players learning what we want them to do. The Florida pitching rule, the current version is on the central hub, and Jeremy's got that up there. We did make one very minor tweak to how we had written the rule before. It used to say both feet had to be within the length of the pitching plate. That's what we copied that from NCAA, because the reason we go with the Florida pitching rule is we want our girls to be ready to pitch at the next level, to learn to do that. NCAA changed their enforcement to within or partially within. So that's why we added that or partially within to the Florida pitching rule. So I encourage you, make a copy of that and tuck it in on page, whatever it is, 50, between page 50 and 51, make a copy of what the Florida pitching rule is. And the other thing that the coaches actually ask for is for us to administer the Florida pitching rule when you have teams from out of state. We have a lot of teams come to Florida to play. The Florida pitching rule should be, I don't have access to home campus, which the coaches use, like we use Arbiter, but it should be there for them to share with the teams that are coming in. Plate umpires meet with the visiting coach, go over it quickly with them. That's why you need to know it cold. And then I just say, do the best you can. Understand that there will probably be some adjustments for those pitchers that are used to pitching under NFHS rules, but do what you can. All right.
Can I add my 2 cents?
Yes, please.
Okay. Illegal pitches. The only thing I'm going to say is we need to call them. All right. If we see them, we need to call them, whether it's 1, whether it's 10, whether it's 20. We need to stay with it. If she's still illegal, we've got to stop her. One of the biggest things is, especially like quick pitching. Okay. They can't just take the signal and then pitch the ball. Okay. There has to be some type of delay in there. So pay attention to that. And again, if you see it, we've got to call it and continuously call it.
Amen. And I said it to you guys before, if you're letting a girl get away with illegal pitches, you're hurting a softball player. Don't hurt softball players. And you're also hurting the next crew that comes on and does her game and does call the illegal pitches. So if you see it, if you're sure it's illegal, call it. Now we had Diane on. She gets very passionate. Diane, I hope maybe you can hear us. If not, but she's very passionate about softball mechanics, FHSAA softball mechanics. I know many of you do other sports. Many of you do other levels. A lot of college umpires in our state. If you had me debrief you after a state tournament game and you were using college mechanics, I tell you to read your hat. It says FHSAA. So use FHSAA mechanics. Don't use college. Don't use baseball. Softball is not baseball for girls. It's a different sport. Wear the right uniform and use the right mechanics. And when Diane pops on, she'll probably add a little bit to that. Cindy, want to add to that one?
Yes, I do. With the mechanics, we have to also know the rules, okay? Leaving early, all right? Make sure we're giving it a dead ball,
Good
no
point.
pitch, okay? It's not a delayed dead ball. It is a dead ball, all right? If we're gonna give a signal, let's give a signal, all right? Strikes are way up here. They're not right here at your face or your shoulders, all right? We got to get the strikes up higher. If the plate umpire is the one who initiates signals to the base umpire, okay? Get in a rhythm. Let your partner know that every time you get back before the batter steps in, you're going to give a signal, or you're going to give it as she steps in, something, so that they're paying attention and you guys are both on the same page as to, you know, what the next potential play could be. Base umpires, make sure you give your signals back to the plate umpire so that he does know that you're paying attention and you know what's going on. There was one other one. I wanted to talk about the wedge. All right. We've always been able to do it, but now we're emphasizing that you need to get into a position so that you can see all four elements in front of you. Okay. The offense, the defense, the base, and the ball. Do not automatically default to, if you're on the plate, a third base extension. And if you're on, you know, out in the field, say you're counter rotated to in the B slot, to automatically, you know, a first base extended. We need to move as the play happens. All right. And then you need to pick your best position from there. The one mechanic I see a lot of base umpires are always watching the fly ball. 99% of the time, the plate umpire has responsibility on the fly ball. So we need to get in positions so that we can see other things that are happening. That 1% would be going out on a fly ball to right field if it's close to the line to help your plate person get that. And remember, we always signal for a reason. I can't stress that more than anything. And anytime there's an out, if it's an infield fly and everybody knows, we still signal that the girl is out.
Yep.
All right, Larry,
Thanks, Cindy.
back to you.
And that's in two, where Cindy's talking about a base umpire's chasing or covering in 2 umpire. When we're going to do a 3 umpire webinar next month sometime, where we're specifically talk about using the 3 ump mechanics in high school. More often than not, if it's going to touch leather, we want an umpire to cover it or chase. So, but those are great points. Thank you, Cindy. Last week, there was a lot of emails and texts and phone calls going around about foul tips. So we added foul tip definition. Again, in your rule book, 225.2 on page 23 defines a foul tip. Cindy says she wins money on this one all the time. Don't let her take your money. Foul tip is a ball that goes off the bat sharply and directly to the catcher's mitt or hand, and then is legally caught by the catcher. So if you have a 1-1 count, ball goes off the bat, hits the catcher's glove, pops up high in the air, and she catches it, that's a foul tip, legally caught by the catcher. And the count's now 1-2. If the count was 1-2 and that happened, she struck out. Foul tip is a strike. Live ball, strike. If it goes off her mitt, hits her shoulder or her chest protector and is legally caught, it's a foul tip. it's legally caught by the catcher. So it's still a foul tip. If it goes off her hand, glove, and is caught by somebody else, a third base crashing, foul ball. That's in the rule, in rules 225. So any questions on that? As always, I'm always available to talk. I love talking softball. I get calls fairly often from a number of umpires, and don't hesitate. Go ahead, Cindy. How much money have you won this year on it? Any stuff?
I'd had a call already earlier because nobody believes that the cat, if as long as it hits the hand or the glove, it could bounce off her knee, off her chest protector, off her helmet. And as long as she catches it, that's a foul tip. That's the biggest one.
Cindy and I had one time where we discussed the hypothetical if it get caught under her chest protector and never hits the ground. Once she gets it in her hand, it's a legal catch. Foul tip. So at state tournament this year, we had a rule misapplied. The only way a runner, active or retired, can interfere with a thrown ball is if she does so intentionally. So, Jeremy, I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. I'm going to actually thank Cindy. She brought this one. It's a lot easier to get videos from college games. I love to get more from high school games. If you have any good videos, send them to me and we'll use them. But I'm going to share the screen here. Oh, I need, wait, what do I do, Jeremy? I got to optimize. Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
That should help. Whoops, I was looking at this earlier today. I think it was a game from last year. Note that there's one out, runners on first and second.
Wear it up yet.
Roped on the ground to second. This could be two. There's one, and the throw hits Roberts right on the chest. A rough moment around second base. Roberts got hit right in the chest with that throw, so Matthews is safe. Runners now on the corners with two outs. Ouch.
The shortstop Griffin was trying to turn this ball, but she couldn't get herself a strong throwing lane, and instead just pegs Roberts right in the shoulder. That does not feel good if you're Roberts right now. Griffin just can't get that throwing lane open to throw it to first base for the double play.
I see some people you recognize.
Now the referees are converging.
And they also call them referees. Again, that was college. In college, that could have been a double play. I guess that pause she made there was enough for the crew to decide that she didn't, that was not interference by a retired runner. In high school, that would never be interference by a retired runner. And I'll tell you why. Because in Florida, we've got future SEC shortstops playing on the same field with Big Mary that the coach talked her into playing just so they'd have enough to play. And she's on first base and there's a ground ball and she is just between first and second. And that short, if we allow that shortstop to get an extra out by pegging that runner, that's not what we're after in high school softball. So the only way a runner, active or retired, can interfere with a thrown ball is if she does so intentionally. Now, if she interferes with the shortstop near the bag and she can't make the throw, that's interference. If she does something that you deem that you judge to be intentional, that could be interference. The one we had at state was a runner on first, sack bunt. The batter popped the ball up and the catcher caught it. The runner had no idea that the catcher caught the ball. She was in the running lane and the catcher hit her in the back and they gave him a double play. That was not interference. So anyway, Cindy, want to comment on that one?
Yeah, just to be clear, because I'm sure if anybody's out there that does college, that was an incorrect call that they made on the field. So that is in college, NC2A, that was obstruction by the, I'm sorry, interference by the runner. The biggest one that we talk about in NC2A, and it comes to the same point, is the pop-up slides at second base. Okay. In high school, the kid's doing what the kid's supposed to do. So at that point, we do not have interference by a retired runner because it wasn't on purpose, unless you deem she popped up and, you know, got in that shortstop's way. But don't confuse NC2A with high school. This is my point.
Thanks, Cindy. That's great. Good stuff.
Real quick, Larry, a question here real quick.
Yeah.
Should the base umpire wait for the plate umpire to signal?
For, I'm sorry, for, you know, like if you're given timing plays or infield flies?
I think based on that interference one, Bobby, if you want to clarify, when you're speaking, the question was just, should the base umpire wait for the plate umpire to signal? I'm not sure what situation he's referring to, though. So if you want to move forward, I'll wait and see if he clarifies at the end.
Okay.
All right, well, just remember, in that play that we saw, that is not interference in high school. Okay, so there is no call. We just continue. That ball is live. So
the only thing you would do there is give a safe signal as showing that I saw what you saw. I've got nothing. Balls play on.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. You know, because when NC2A made that interpretation, I just went, oh, geez, we're going to see that. And we did. We've seen it a couple times, state tournament, and we've had it called right and we've had it called wrong. So, again, the only way a runner, active or retired, can interfere with a ball that's thrown in flight is if she does so intentionally. And that's a hard judgment.
Let me just add on to that. If you saw that mechanic, okay, there was a flaw with that mechanic as well. The base umpire did not stay with the little yellow ball, okay? He turned his head way too soon. You've got to stay with that play there, and then you can focus back on first base. If it's a sliding thing later, that your plate umpire can see that interference. But those double plays like that, you've got to stay with the ball. All right, priorities, ball first.
Thanks, Cindy. Every year I attend the Florida Athletic Coaches Association softball coaches meeting in, it's been in Daytona Beach forever, but we're moving to Orlando next year. This year they asked me to talk about a rule that is confusing to coaches and confusing to a lot of umpires. So I'll share with you the presentation I gave in December to the FACA softball coaches meeting. And let me make sure. Hang on. Make sure we're optimized. Yeah, it looks like we're optimized. Good. Okay, so I bored them at first with rulebook and definitions. Under the definition part, rule 2, obstruction is an action by the defense. Offense interferes, defense obstructs. It's when a defender hinders or impedes a batter's attempt to hit a pitch or a runner legally running the bases. We all learn differently. I learned pretty well reading the book, but many people don't. So what I encourage you to do when you're in your rule books is to visualize a situation for each of these rules. So obstruction can be intentional or it can be unintentional. So it's more often than not unintentional, but how about one that would be intentional? Okay, you got a runner on second, ground ball, shortstop doesn't think she's going to get it, but she initiates contact with the runner trying to get an interference call. Well, that's obstruction. That would be intentional. It can be physical, usually, or verbal. So what's a situation where you could have a verbal obstruction? Say you go have a runner on second, fly ball to right center. The runner takes off, doesn't think it'll be caught, but the third baseman's yelling, go back, go back, go back, tag up, tag up. Well, now you've got verbal obstruction. Think about that one for a little bit. It's always a delayed dead ball. When we have obstruction, the play continues. Interference is an immediate dead ball. Obstruction is a delayed dead ball. So now we'll go to the rule on catcher's obstruction. Hopefully you know the penalty is the batter is awarded first base and runners advance only if they are forced. There's some caveats though. If the batter puts the ball in play and reaches first base and all the runners advance at least one base, obstruction is canceled. Coach gets no option. If he's got a runner on first, running on the pitch, batter's obstructed but puts the ball into play, the second baseman fields it and throws that runner from first out at third base, and the runner reaches first base. Well, the batter reached first base and the runner from first advanced one base, so obstruction's canceled. No, coach, you don't have an option on that one. But if the batter does not reach first or the runners do not advance at least one base, then the offensive coach has the choice of the penalty or the result of the play. So you ask, well, why wouldn't they just take the penalty? Well, there's a couple situations maybe. You've got a runner on third, late in a close game. The batter is obstructed by the catcher, puts the ball in play and is thrown out at first, but the run scores. Coach, you want the results of the play, which is the out and the run scores? Or do you want the penalty, which is the batter gets first base, but the runner on third stays there? Another one, it could even happen on a foul ball. You got the runner on third, you got your best hitter at the plate, less than 2 outs. The catcher obstructs her and she fouls the ball off. You got to give the coach the option. Do you want your batter to have first, or do you want the foul ball? He may want that batter up there because she's the one that's most likely to drive in that runner from third. So think of, know that rule, know when there is no option, know when the coach has an option, and be able to explain the options that she has, because she may not know it as well as we do. Now for the rule on obstructed runner. If the defender, usually an infielder, has control of the ball, she cannot be called for obstruction, with one exception, which we'll get to. If the defender is making the initial play on a batted ball, and look into the definition for initial play, which that's the old, if she boots it, but within a step and a reach, she's still making an initial play. If it's deflected off the pitcher and she is fielding it, she is still making an initial play. So she's protected. She can't be called for an obstruction. The umpire making the obstruction call makes the judgment on what base the runner would have reached had there not been obstruction. Excuse me for reading this to you, but I just want to give you time to think and make those, imagine the situations in your mind. When the runner reaches the base that would have been awarded, then the obstruction is canceled. That's why it's a delayed dead ball and we play on. If the runner's put out prior to reaching the base that would have been awarded, then you call dead ball, award the obstructed runner and all other runners the bases they would have obtained had there not been obstruction. So what do you mean other runners? Well, say you've got your runner on first, base hit to right field. The runner from first is obstructed by the shortstop as she's just going around second, but you judge that she would have obtained third base. Well, the batter runner sees the runner ahead of her at second, so she stops on first. So in that case, you award the runners second and third. Now we get to the confusing parts. There are exceptions to the obstruction rule. I encourage you, get the book, get to this rule, and study it over and imagine situations for each one of these. Interference takes precedence over obstruction. You've got a catcher obstructing home plate. You got the runner maliciously crashing into the catcher. That interference takes precedence. She is out. You could have it in a rundown. If the runner is obstructed in a rundown, and then subsequent to that, the one of the fielders is making a throw, she reaches up and swats it down, that's interference. It takes precedence, she's out. If you have a subsequent play on a different runner, okay? So now you've got that runner on first again, she's rounding second, she, on a base hit just to the right fielder, obstructed by the shortstop, but as the base umpire, you don't think she would have had third, you're just going to award her second. But the defense, the batter runner makes a wide turn, they make a play on her, a try for her on first base. Now that runner that started on first, that you had protected to second, she was obstructed between second and third, but she's no longer protected. If she tries to advance to third, it's at her own risk, liability to be put out. Obstructed runner passes another runner, then that cancels it, and the obstructed runner is out. If the batter flies out for a third out, and a runner is obstructed, it's still the third out. Remember, we said that you had to be running the bases legally. So if she leaves a base too early on a caught fly ball or misses the base, it sounds like Diane's here.
Hey.
Hey, Diane.
All right. Hey. All right.
Let me close this for a little bit, and we'll go back to this.
Hi. All right. So briefly, welcome our little boys basketball team. So at halftime, we got a couple minutes left. All right, mechanics. All right, FHSAA mechanics.
Told you
Not
she would
college.
jump in on this.
Yeah, not collegiate. All right, not one of the A's, not USA, not PGA, whatever summer ball or travel ball, PGF that you're doing. Let's work on federation. All right, that means you got a button hook. We've done our Florida modifications. And I don't know if you talked about those, but guess what? That's all printed on our hub. So if you got a question about what our local state mechanics are, just check that out. But here is the deal. If I'm on a baseball field, I'm not sweeping the pitching rubber. That is a softball mechanic. You're not going to paint and do a baseball mechanic, because those coaches are going to say, you're not a baseball umpire out of here. So all of those little pictures in the back of the books, all of those charts that you can look up, take a look, practice in a mirror, do the stuff that Federation is asking us. It'll keep us a little bit out of trouble. You might trick people thinking you know what you're doing, and it'll help your partners, veterans. Don't be sloppy, have sharp mechanics. All right, if you get lazy out there, all they're seeing is poor mechanics. So that's my preaching and my rant. So we know what to do. We've got good mechanics. Hey, use them out there. It's a good way to communicate.
Thanks, Diane. And we update those regularly. I think the last one was right after the state tournament. It's up there. The current one is on the central hub under FHSAA softball mechanics. We don't say authorized modifications anymore. We say, this is our softball mechanics. It's what we want you to use.
There we go.
And that and the document that's up there that's called 3 umpire tips, that'll tell you, but when we get to the 3 umpire, we'll cover this again next month on a webinar, but that tells you where you should start and what your mechanics are. There should never be an excuse for starting in the wrong position in 3 umpire mechanics. Anyway, thank you, Diane. And remember,
All right.
tell them, if in doubt, read your hat. FHSAA.
That'll work. I like it. See ya.
Thanks, Diane. All right. We'll go back to
While you get that going, Larry, I have
Yeah.
a question. Can obstruction be due to a catcher intentionally placing their helmet on the third base line with a runner coming home on a play? We have a team whose coach teaches the catchers to put their helmet on the third base line.
I say that she's hindering or impeding a runner legally running the bases. Yes, if it looks like that's intentional, get the left fist out there, call obstruction. Coach says, but. Said, Coach, your catcher put it there intentionally. She impeded the runner. That's obstruction. Dead ball, obstruction, safe.
And it's a safety issue.
Absolutely, it is.
Exactly. I agree with the safety. Exactly. That's what I was going to bring up as well. Safety.
Thanks. That's an excellent question. And daggone these coaches, darn it. All right, back to our exceptions. If a runner misses a base or leaves a base too early on a caught fly ball, she's not running the bases illegal or not running the bases legally. She is subject to be appealed. But if she's obstructed when she's trying to return to tag up or touch a base that she missed, now she's protected again. Again, think about it, visualize it. And I said, there's one situation when a defender with the ball could be called for obstruction. She cannot push the runner off a base that she has legally obtained. Take you back to the 1991 World Series.
Smith is going, and a hit to left by Gant. And Lonnie's trying. They're going to get him perhaps. He's safe. And now Gant gets back to first, and he's out.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag. I think the Braves have a legitimate complaint right here. Ken Herbeck makes the tag, and watch the momentum of Herbeck pull Gant off the bag. He pulls him off the bag. I think that's a bad call right there.
I'll throw in with you on that. There's Gant, there's Herbeck. And we'll return to the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome after this match.
So if you see that, that's also obstruction. The only time that a player in control of the ball could be obstructing. So this is a 2018 video Christy Cornwell put together for NCAA umpires, but it applies to us as well. So you'll hear her talk about the new rule. Well, it's 5 years old now, but if you go to YouTube and search for Christy Cornwell obstruction, you'll get this video. And it's pretty good. It's not very long. Use this, teach your associations this one.
My name is Christy Cornwell, and I'm going to talk with you about the new obstruction rule and what it means and how you can help your players make effective plays without violating the rule. So the new rule says you can't block the whole base plate or base path without being in possession of the ball. So the way, as umpires, we interpret that, we look at the leading edge of the plate or the base, and then we make that a vertical plane. So if your body is standing behind the vertical plane or the leading edge of the plate or the base, you can straddle, and that would not be considered obstruction because the runner still has a portion of the base or the plate that they can get to and the base path. For plays at the plate, we're looking for the catcher to be in fair territory, allowing the runner the back portion of the plate and the base path. be straddling behind the leading edge, or if they want to be in foul territory. For plays up the line, we're looking for the catcher, both feet, to be in fair territory, allowing a base path and a portion of the plate, or in foul territory, again allowing the front portion of the base path and the plate to be accessible. If we see a catcher that's set up straddling the line, we would consider this blocking the whole base path or plate, because they're now straddling the fair side and the foul side, and their body's in front of the leading edge. So this would be considered obstruction. For errant throws, we allow the catcher to move through the base path, then allowing access to the plate or the base. If the throw draws the catcher into the base path, then we would look at obstruction on that play. Okay, so for plays at a base, we're going to talk about second base. Again, we have to remember that the rule is the defense cannot block the whole base or base path. So this would be considered a valid catch, non-obstructing, because the runner would have access to the front edge, the leading edge of the whole base. Straddling behind the leading edge, allowing the runner to have access to the vertical plane, would also be acceptable. Straddling corner to corner would be acceptable, or behind the leading edge on the outfield side of the base would also be acceptable. Setting up in front of the base, setting up with only a portion in front of the base would be acceptable. My setup here allows the runner to have the back portion of second base. Now, I can't tell the runner where she has to slide, so if the runner chooses to slide into me and I do not have possession of the ball at that point, this setup stance, which is not obstruction, can become obstruction depending on how the play develops. Setting up with both of my feet blocking the whole base path or base, this would be considered obstruction. Setting up on the back half of second base, allowing the runner the inside half of second base, this would not be considered obstruction, but again, it could become obstruction if there's physical contact before I have possession of the ball.
All right, now we got a couple high school videos. This one doesn't have sound, but I'm going to mute them because I don't want any sound on the next one either. Let me set this one up for you. It's a regional semifinal, I think. It's 3-umpire crew. You've got runners on first and second. It's the 6th inning and the score is tied. So it's a tight ball game. Oh, by the way, that blue thing up there above the left field, that was a full moon. It was one of those kind of nights. So let's see if we get this one to run here. Again, runners on first and second. So we got U3 is on the line, 12 feet back. U1 is counter rotated and got everything in first and second. 2 outs, by the way, 2 outs, and runners on first and second. Let it run through and then go back and look at it. Dead ball, obstruction, safe. 22 is pretty happy, jumped up and down. And the defensive coach, here she comes.
You gonna play this one again, Larry?
See if it gives me. Come on. Doggone it.
One thing on the mechanic end of it
Oh,
is
there
what
it
we
is. Thing worked there we go. Okay, so let's go look back a little bit at what our plate umpire did. Now, this is one that could have gone either way. I will admit that. Let's see what, so we got 2 outs, first and second, ground ball kind of up the middle, but into left center field. Catcher's in good position. I would like the plate umpire to stay at the point of the plate a little longer and keep everything in front of him. I think he defaults the third base line too quick, but that's where he ended up wanting to be anyway. So the catcher is still good right now. Now the ball's coming in. Now she's dropping back, and she does not have the ball yet. You can see where the ball is. She does not have it. He's made his decision. That left arm is going out. And I agree that she was impeded. She couldn't have slid where that catcher had her blocked, and she ended up trying to jump over her. I asked the umpire about that. I said, you could use your mask in your left hand. He said, yeah, but didn't want it hanging out there, so I moved it back to my right hand. So he's got dead ball, obstruction, safe. Made a nice, strong call. Didn't have to have a long conversation with the coach. Now, and I'm not sure why he kept backing out of there. I said, if you'd have stayed right where you were, you had a really strong call. But overall, I thought he did a good job. If he'd have decided that it was not obstruction, I could have supported that as well. Always a tough call. One more to look at. Again, a regional playoff game. So we got a 3-umpire crew. We got runner on first base. I think it was no outs. It was certainly less than 2. So we've got U3 rotated 12 feet back on that line. U1's out of the picture here, and we'll let it run. And then we'll come back and look at it again. Sack bunt, high throw. Come on, give me. There it is. All right. Go back and look at it again, and then we'll go all the way to the end and look at that as well as preparation for our 3-umpire. So again, sack bunt, no problem whether it was fair or foul. It's obviously fair. Plate umpire, and the catcher is doing something we don't expect. She's moving. She's not backing up first. She's kind of drifting towards the ball. First baseman's crashing. Second baseman's covering first. Shortstop's covering second. Plate umpire's watching the runner as he moves. Throw's going to second. He's going, oh, crap. I might have a call down here. Throws high. Shortstop makes an incredible catch. She's a heck of an athlete. She goes up and gets that ball. The U3 gives a strong safe. Shortstop gets up and throws her out at third base. And by the way, that's the left fielder covering third there. And the third baseman is pushing my plate guy. He's getting too close, but he had to stay between them. And again, he's a lefty. He switched his mask over to the right hand and gave it a real strong punch out. Nice job by the plate umpire. However, what's the most common situation to have a rotation? When you have a runner on first. That should have been a rotation. That first base umpire needs to be at the point of the plate right now. And the third base umpire has everything at first and second. So he should have, let me try one more time. Here we go. What's your depth for a force play? 18 to 20 feet, 21 feet, right? Where's U3 starting? He's starting at 12 feet. He never took a step back. He needed to gain some distance from this force play. I think it kind of blew up on him. The offensive coach never asked for obstruction. The defense coach wanted interference for the collision there, but no, the bad throw put the shortstop in that position. So the third base umpire should have gained a little depth, and now he needs to push the plate umpire to the plate for a rotation.
You won.
And again, we'll talk about that more when we do our 3 umpire webinar or 3 umpire mechanics webinar at the end of the or sometime next month, sometime in March, we'll do that. There's my email and my phone number. Don't hesitate. You got questions, please give me a call. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and we can go back and have, okay, go away. There we go. Cindy, you want to add to that one? Either of those two?
No, just on the original one, the first one you played, that was my point of emphasis of defaulting to third base extended too quickly. Because there's no way that he saw whether that catcher caught that ball. If that had not been obstruction for a tag on the leg or anything, because everything was in front of him and all he saw was her back. So that's one great example of why we don't want to go third base extended initially. You have to let the play and then go.
Yep. And just because we want you in the wedge to start at the point of the plate doesn't mean you can't move left. Sometimes you need to move back to first base or towards first base line extended. Don't default to third base line extended and think that you're using the wedge. Yeah.
And also you can also end up all the way in fair territory if you
Absolutely.
had to rotate all the way around. So don't be afraid of that either.
Yeah, stay on the catcher's plate side hip. As she moves, you move. Great. All right. I think we got some questions, right, Jeremy?
Yes, sir. You ready?
Right. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to cover. But always got time to answer questions.
All right. Can the pitcher bring their hands together while on the pitcher's plate before the batter occupies the batter's box?
Yes. In fact, we want her to get the ball back, step on, get her feet set, get her signal. And if she can do that within the 10 seconds that the batter, we're not holding up the pitcher to, because the batter's slow getting in the box. If she's doing everything according to the Florida pitching rule, she's fine.
But, okay, we don't want the batter 1 foot in and her to be pitching the ball.
No.
Okay, our batter has to be ready to hit the ball. So don't allow them to quick pitch.
Yeah, the batter has 10 seconds from the time the pitcher gets the ball back to be in the box. So if you see that she's not ready, you can stop the pitcher from pitching, but she's not illegal if she's got her feet set, if she's got her signal from the dugout or from the catcher or from her grandmother in the bleachers, wherever she's getting it, from her wristband, and brings her hand together and ready to pitch. But if the batter's not set, don't allow her to pitch. Don't allow a quick pitch.
In the situation of a foul tip, as you described, the bobble by a catcher or deflection off the glove of their equipment is a strike, but not an out. Runners can advance as it is a foul tip, correct?
Foul tip means it is a strike and a live ball. If there are 2 strikes, then the batter's out. But if there's less than 2 strikes, it's just another strike. And yes, runners can advance. Runners can be picked off.
Just remember, it's got to hit their hand or their glove first.
That's right. Sharply and directly to the mitt or the hand. Right from the book.
If a player slides with hands up, blocks the ball, would that be considered intentional?
That's your judgment. You have to judge, did she reach up? Is she quick enough to reach up and swat at that ball, or is she just sliding with her hands up to protect, not jam her wrists? So that's umpire, it got to be umpire judgment. You had to be there.
Yeah, she's got to have some long arms and you got to have a really short shortstop or second baseman.
Somebody's throwing sidearm or underhand
Yeah,
there.
something crazy.
Yep,
So there would be no interference even if a runner is out by 20 feet and continues running to second base.
that's correct. If she's, she is not required to disappear just because she's out.
There is no slide rule. There is no must slide rule.
What is the proper mechanic for a dropped third strike? In baseball, the umpire uses a safe signal supplemented by a verbal safe. What is
Cindy,
it for softball?
What do you like?
Well, we don't have anything in there for that, so it should just be strike three, and you can verbalize it maybe a little bit louder, especially if she's swinging. If it's a drop third strike, you're gonna give your, whatever your strike three is. We haven't gone to a safe signal yet. Could be something we could talk about.
I don't mind it if I see, if it's a drop third strike and I see the out signal followed by a safe indicating that it's dropped, I don't mind that, and I think that's probably something we need to discuss adding to our mechanics. I think that's probably a good thing to add. So,
All right, because that is the college mechanic, so it wouldn't be too far off.
yes,
When a catcher's glove is well extended into the strike zone, is it obstruction?
if it contacts the bat, it sure is.
Absolutely.
Just because it's in there, it's not obstruction if it doesn't hinder the batter's attempt to hit the ball. But if it touches the bat at all, catcher's obstruction. Yes.
How is straddling the home plate, even behind the leading edge, not obstruction with a batter running full speed to score? Batter runner can only slide between the legs to avoid contact, correct?
Once she touches the plate, she scored. All right. If you've got a collision, you've got a collision. There's no obstruction just because she's straddling.
Right.
I believe it was the second to last video where obstruction was called.
Right.
Would there be a call on the on-deck batter as it looked like she assisted the batter back to home plate?
No, because as soon as the obstruction and the out, dead ball. She's not going to be assisted at that point. She's awarded home plate.
Awarded, yep.
So no, that would not be assisting the runner.
All right, and then a clarification for the equipment explanation. There would need to be proof and judgment during the game that the equipment is placed there with intent to obstruct, and the equipment isn't dropped on the catcher's release and bounces there. The proof for that call to be applied isn't just the coach just teaching them to put it there. The umpire would need to see it got there and judge it is intentionally placed. Is that correct?
Yes, that would be a judgment call.
But if she literally gets up, takes the helmet off, walks over there and puts it down, is a lot different than her just flipping her mask out and getting ready for a play. So that's the difference that I would see.
Right. All right. I know this has been a topic the last couple of years. Discussion time between innings.
That's one we should have had on there, Cindy.
I got it here.
Good. You had it. Good.
Time between innings can be timed. Okay, we can time that 60 seconds. As soon as the last out is made, you have 60 seconds to play ball again. So if you have a timepiece and you want to use it, fine. Give them a warning. You got 15 seconds at 45. Boom. Now it's a minute. However, in high school, we do not have a penalty if they go over that 1 minute. But what I would recommend is at that point in time, if it's the offense, batter in the box. Now you've got your 20-second count. The same with the pitcher. If the pitcher's the one that's causing the delay, you've got your 20-second rule as well. So use that. for your timing in between innings.
Yeah, you do have that tool in your tool belt. And I'd also, with the coaches that take forever to get the signal in so the pitcher can look at her wristband and he's yelling out, Omaha, Omaha, blue 24, whatever. It gets close to 20, do it early. Dead ball, time violation, ball. When coach, what? I said, she has 20 seconds, coach, from the time she gets the ball back to deliver the next pitch. Use that tool. That'll speed up your games. Please speed up the games. Golly, they're getting slow.
And asking for clarification again, can someone explain how an errant throw plays into determining obstruction and or interference?
If you have if the catcher at first base is usually where we see it a lot. If the first baseman has to cross over the foul line because the shortstop threw it off a little bit, okay, that's a great example right there. If she doesn't catch the ball and tag her and you have a collision, then you've got obstruction.
Yep. Just because she didn't intentionally move in there, she obstructed because she did not have control of the ball. So that on an errant throw going to first base. If you want to call or email and talk about that one some more, I'm always ready. So
A batter can interfere with a catcher trying to throw to third, even if the catcher does not complete the throw, correct?
absolutely correct. This is not like the throwing lane, the running lane, where if you're going to call interference for a batter runner in the running lane, there has to be a throw. There does not have to be a throw if a batter interferes with a catcher. If the catcher holds up because the batter swung across the plate in front of him, trying to protect that runner stealing second, you can get that batter for interference, return the runner first base. And another one in high school, different from college, immediate dead ball interference. In college, it's a delayed dead ball, I think.
And remember, the batter's box is not a sanctuary.
If she does something intentionally while she's in there to interfere with the catcher, interference. Good question. Yeah.
In two-person mechanics, does the base umpire chase or not under any circumstances?
Okay,
Cindy,
that's what
you covered that a little bit. Yep.
Yeah, that's what we talk about. The only time that we would want a base umpire in two-man to chase, if you have a ball that is a line drive, something really close to the line that your plate umpire is going to have a hard time calling fair or foul.
Yeah, if you're in A with no runners and the ball's down the right field line, yeah, go ahead and chase. That's a good opportunity to practice it. Get on that line.
Make sure your plate umpire can get the second, though.
Well, yeah, that's true. You need to pregame that. Said, hey, if there's a ball down the right field line, and I go out, you got everything on the bases. So,
Does the plate umpire have the running lane violation all the way to first base?
Usually, yes, because that's his job to be trailing and see that, and he has a good view of where the runner's feet last touched. But it's interference, so interference can be called by either umpire or any umpire. But I would give the plate umpire first right of refusal on that one, unless something really obvious that the base umpire saw.
Larry, from your end as a roles interpreter that attends more of these meetings, do you or have you heard, is it in the burner at any level of, or for high school, for softball to have a time limit for coaches conferences?
I have not heard that one. That one, no. But that's part of game management, plate umpire. Are we talking about during in-game conference where they ask for a conference? Plate umpire has got control of that. So, we've all done it. Cindy's done it 1,000 times, going out, swept the plate, recorded the conference, going out, listened to the coach make his point to his players, and then said, okay, here we go, let's play, and come back with the catcher. Don't leave her out there, because she won't come back until you make her.
Right, get a routine. It should be the same every time. That way you're timing both teams the same. So like you said, if the plate needs brush it. If it doesn't, don't do it just to do it. But they stand there a little bit longer, make sure you do your changes, your conferences, walk out to the side where the coach can see you and say, give them another second and go, okay, we got to play, and then come back with the catcher. Good job.
And then just wanting more clarification regarding tablet in the coaches boxes for scoring purpose, such as game changer.
Absolutely
It is
fine.
Yeah,
No problem if that's what they're using it for. Many coaches, I had coaches at the FACA meeting ask if they were required to keep a paper book. I said, no, if you're the home scorer and you've got game changer or one of the other things that they have, it's new now that, and you can answer the question, who's my next batter? What's the count? All that kind of stuff. That's probably better than the paper book. If the person keeping it is competent.
And they have to be in the dugout, correct? The game changer stats cannot be in the box.
Yeah. They can keep score on the game changer. The coach can keep that in the box. Your official score should be either in the dugout, or a lot of times it's a parent sitting outside the fence, but you ask the home coach, okay, who's got your official book? But they can use it for scorekeeping purposes in the coach's box. Anything else has to be in the dugout.
Okay. The instructor in the video used the term blocking the whole base and whole plate for NCAA obstruction, but I have not heard that for high school, and I don't see it in the definition of obstruction. I always understood it to mean the fielder couldn't even partially block the base until they had possession of the ball.
Again, in your judgment, did she hinder or impede that runner? If she did, without the ball, then you've got obstruction. I think what Christie was before this, when NC2A had about to receive, catchers and other defenders would absolutely block the base before the ball, before she had the ball, and they changed it to be much more similar to what we do in high school. And I like her positioning video, but that doesn't mean that if she hinders or impedes that runner, in your judgment, yes, left fist goes out, obstruction.
Okay, now with that same thought, remember, if I can block, say I'm the catcher, I could stand there right in foul territory and definitely be in the baseline blocking that, blocking the base path. As that runner comes around third and I see her and she's coming straight at me, and at the last minute I move and she just slides right into the plate, did I obstruct her? How did I hinder her? Okay, so obstruction is really a judgment call, and you've got to be paying attention to the entire play. You can't just base it on where the catcher was, and if the runner just keeps coming straight in,
if she doesn't slow down, or change her path, then she probably wasn't impeded. So.
Exactly. So you have to watch the entire play.
Great.
There's one regarding standard app for Lightning at the schools. Again, that's usually done by the home team or home facility. If it's a tournament, they should have an administrator or tournament director that is in control, or at least has access to that device. So in short, no, not every school is using the same Lightning tracking device or software. It's whatever the county or the higher ups at that district have decided to use, whether it's based on cost or what they feel is the best to use in their area. For our events, whether it's softball or football or any of our other outdoors, we use whatever the venue has to track Lightning at their events. So softball would be there at the state championship, and Clearwater would be their Lightning device that they have. So Nick is the one that's been speaking about the catcher placing their helmet at third base. And he's clarifying on his end that they're intentionally putting their helmet there. I would say if they are doing that, the first time you do call them, coach is probably going to question and not be happy, and they're going to probably tell their kid to do it again. Just make sure that if they are doing that and you know they're doing it, just be consistent and call it every time. Eventually they're going to stop, or they're going to give up easy runs, or instead of an out, they're going to have a save. So just stay consistent with it. Let them know that that is the rule. If they have questions, they can contact us. If someone is getting hurt or does get hurt, please fill out an AT6 miscellaneous as well regarding that, and let us know what led to that safety, because again, it is, I would even say, somewhat unsporting.
I'll agree with that.
Intentionally trying to possibly hurt somebody to gain advantage of what looks like an innocent, so to speak, play. Oh, my catcher just put it there on accident. That's probably going to be their how they're going to try to wiggle out of it. But if it's consistent and it happens every time there's a runner coming from second or first or even third for a play at the plate, just be consistent with that. And then we could address it once we hear from the officials, who we hope would send a report into our office regarding that.
And also make sure your association knows, so everybody's calling it the same.
Yes.
All right, looks like we have a couple more here, and we'll wind it down for the evening. We have gone over a little bit of a little over an hour. We try to keep these within an hour or so, but it's been good discussions, a lot of great questions. So we'll wrap up with these last few, and then like Larry said, we'll have another 3-person mechanic one here in the next few weeks where we can get back together again. Is intent on a catcher's obstruction, if the BR doesn't reach first base, or any runners don't advance at least one base, do we automatically place the BR on first base, return the runners to the last base occupied, and play ball? Unless the offensive coach requests his option of the play, or do we stop the play and ask the offensive coach which option does he want to take before we continue play?
Stop the play. Ask the offensive coach, explain what his options are, her options, and say, which one do you want? So yes.
Can you give a coach a warning after a couple times on the helmet? Yeah, of course you can give the coaches warnings. Again, preventative officiating would definitely go a long way, instead of maybe a quick ejection or something like that. But again, we wanted to be consistent within the association as a whole. That way they know that if you do it every time, this is going to be the outcome of it every time. Again, I would deem it as a safety issue. Again, even unsportsmanlike. So I would say more than once is probably too many times, especially with kids getting hurt, running full speeds and full speed and things of that nature. But again, consistency is what we would be looking for, and hopefully after the first game of getting that consistent call, the coach would stop, and that would be communicated with the association. So future games would then be called the same way. Last one on scorekeeping. During school games, we are not recording scores like some may during travel ball. Should there be a pause in gameplay on a score discrepancy? I had this happen once last year where the home team bookkeeper was new, but the way bookkeeper was correct. Didn't want to prolong the flow of the game for too long, though.
You got to get it corrected.
Yep. Get them together. Say, you two get together. Let's get this figured out.
Yeah. You don't want to keep going, because then you're just going to compound the issues.
Absolutely.
Oh, Larry, can you pop up your email address and phone number? We did have a request a little bit ago about that. They were not able to catch that.
All right. Well, he's doing that. Let me add 2 things. One, somebody had asked about umpires wearing jewelry. Okay. I don't think it's crazy if you've got to go by the guidebook, number one, but at the same time, little posts, whether it's male or female, on the ears is probably not an issue. But if you go out there with anything on your arms or wrists, I think that's excessive and not professional. If you go out there with jewelry, necklaces hanging out, and you look like, you know, Mr. T, Mrs. T, I think that's excessive. So if we need to police ourselves and be professional looking out there, and that's all I'm going to say. The one other thing I want to bring up is illegal bats. No, we don't check for bats, but we need to keep an eye out for the Gold Ghost. Okay, it's not a high school bat. And if we catch the kids up there, you know, it's an ejection for both, which is confined to the bench, but it's for the coach and the player. So let's not get that far. If you see something perusing the dugouts, which is what we should be doing, then get the bat out of there so we don't have those issues. And that's all from me.
And if you have questions, any of you have questions regarding bats, please reach out. If you were, ooh, this one might be illegal or not, but you don't want to go do anything where you're ejecting the player or removing it, reach out to us to clarify and say, hey, we had this bat. Is it legal? We will definitely clarify and let you know. And then you can tell your association, hey, I checked on this bat. FHSA said it's illegal. Can we just notify the school? That way they're not getting in trouble the next game. And again, we go back to that preventive officiating, umpiring, and that goes a long way with our office in schools. We hear from a lot of you that you're not out looking to eject anyone. It does take a lot. And again, we really appreciate that. We don't want ejections from our end. Obviously, everybody has to do more paperwork. But again, if it's something egregious, language, treatment, touching of the officials by coaches, fans, or athletes, we do take those situations very seriously. We do hand out year suspensions when officials and umpires are touched, contacted by student athletes and coaches. So we do take those very seriously. We know the day and age we live in, especially now where the treatment of our umpires and officials is not very good. So again, we appreciate the preventive umpiring and officiating that all of you do. But again, we're not asking, and we don't want you to take the extreme abuse, and at some point there has to be an end to it, because we don't want you out there taking the verbal attacks night in and night out with these coaches. Language is something we're trying to address on our end as well with these athletes. Schools and their coaches get fined for every cuss word that they do use. So in your reports, let us know if they drop the F-bomb 3-4 times. Let us know that they use it in this sentence. You're effing horrible. You effing suck. Whatever it is, let us know those sentences, that language, and we do take those seriously, because as you know, we need all of you out there. And we want to keep you out there as long as your body and mind will allow you to stay out there on that diamond. So again, we do take those seriously. We meet every morning. Ask Danielle, she gets hammered with those right now, and she's not even full on board. We get them daily for softball and basketball, and we meet and we send them out to the schools, and again, be direct, to be precise on those write-ups. That way it's not leaving any question for our committee that handle those of, well, did that really happen the way it is? Be specific with your details, and as to the point as possible, because we want to back you guys up while you're out there and doing a service for our student athletes. So again, we appreciate all of you in taking the time and dedication away from your families and friends and things like that to give back to our student athletes. And we'll be in touch, Larry and I and Cindy, about getting the next one put together in the next few weeks and get it out for all of you. Again, just a couple reminders before I hand it over to Larry and we call it a night. This is being recorded. It will be posted on the Central Hub So please feel free if you want to catch anything after this, and then anytime in the future, it will be posted on the Central Hub for all of you.
Right before we went on the air, one of our eagle-eyed umpires spotted a discrepancy between the official's guidebook and the softball sport manual for game-ending procedures. Use the official's guidebook. It's still 15 after 3, 10 after 5. I'm not sure how that got changed to 3.5 to 4. I don't know, but we'll get it fixed. But use the official's guidebook. That's got the right information.
Cindy,
Thanks,
have any
Jeremy.
parting
Great
words?
job.
Thank you.
The only thing, Jeremy, is every umpire should be on the USA Softball website for what is legal and illegal bats, because we use what they have. So everybody can go get their own. You can print the list off of illegal bats and carry it with you when you're on the plate or on the bases. So you'll know.
Great.
Awesome. Danielle, want to wrap us up here?
All right, well, that was my first meeting ever for softball, and I gotta say, I thought I knew a lot more than I do. There's a lot of technical stuff that you guys are just a wealth of knowledge. So get ready to hear from me, because I'm sure I'll have all the questions. But Larry and Cindy, thank you for your continuing knowledge and educating us and keeping us all on track. So I'm excited for the season. Let's do it.
Let's get it going. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.